Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this edition of Inside the Lines for Week 6 of some high school football. If you guys notice anything different about this week, I'm all by myself. So I'm going to be talking to you guys for the next 30 minutes about the upcoming games that we have on our slate. It is also homecoming here at Benjamin Russell as they take on the 3-2 Charles Henderson Trojans, I believe. But before I get into any of the matchups, I just want to say thank you to our sponsorship, Dunning Roofing. If you guys experienced any damage due to the hurricane coming through or the microburst that went through Alex City not too long ago, make sure you get in contact with them, see what they can do to help you out. They're also... No, that's about it. So if things begin to get a little awkward, just know I am doing this by myself, but I think I could talk pretty well for the entirety of 30 minutes. But before we get into the game that I'm at here at Benjamin Russell, we got quite a few games on our list. We have 9 games in total across all of our coverage. Elmore County and Tallahassee are going to be having a bye week this week. Tallahassee is coming off of a really good come-behind win from last week. They were down 18-0 going into the end of the third quarter, but ultimately came away with a 21-18 victory. Elmore County ultimately fell to Beauregard on the road, but Beauregard's a really tough team, and I don't expect that to derail Elmore County at all. But another game that I really want to get into before we start talking about Benjamin Russell versus Charles Henderson is the game between Dadeville and Reeltown. These teams are ultimately on two different sides of the spectrum when it comes to the success that they have had this season so far. Dadeville is 0-4, looking for their first win of the season, while Reeltown has strung 4 straight wins after their Week 1 loss to T.R. Miller, and they're sitting at 4-1 on the year. Now, one of the big reasons Reeltown has been able to ultimately flip the script and get this momentum has been how strong their offense is. The player that I was really high on going into the season has really, honestly exceeded my expectations for compared to what Reeltown teams have been in the past, and that's Jamarcus Smith. He's in his first year as a starter. Most everybody knows the talent that he brings to the table just with his performance on the mound. He is an excellent baseball player, but on the season right now, he has completed 32 of his 53 passes. He has thrown for 363 passing yards, has 9 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the year. He also has that mobility factor that you kind of need in an offense like Reeltown has, and he's added 181 rushing yards and a touchdown onto his impressive start to the season. And then just the rushing attack for Reeltown in general is just absolutely dominant. On the year, they have 1,251 rushing yards, and I didn't write how many touchdowns they had on the year rushing wise, but let's be honest. You're 5 games into the season, you've already crossed the 1,250 mark on the season. That's absolutely ridiculous. They're averaging 250 rushing yards per game, and that mostly comes from a 2-headed backfield. Well, I say 2-headed. Everybody on the team has seemed to have gotten carries at this point in the season, but the 2 guys that have the most yards on the team are Traylon Roberts, who has 68 carries on the year, 446 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.6 yards a carry and 89.2 yards per game. Then you just have athlete Tay Martin, who not only is a threat as a rusher with his 23 carries, 258 yards, and 6 touchdowns, but let's talk about the impact that he's had in the receiving game as well. He only has 14 catches, right? Which you'd see and you're like, okay, that's nice. He has the most catches on the team, but he has 364 receiving yards and another 6 touchdowns. He has 12 touchdowns on the season, and we're only 5 weeks into the season. Tay Martin is a beast. And that is going to be such a hard thing for Dadeville to defend against, because you got to think, okay, we held Traylon Roberts in check. Now we have to give Tay Martin the ball. It's very hard to defend against just 2 guys that know how to carry the ball, know how to get in the end zone, and that are averaging ridiculous yards per attempt that they get the ball in their hands. It's going to be an extremely tough challenge for Dadeville defensively. When talking to head coach Chad McKelvey heading into this week, he put an extra emphasis on the tackling ability. They can't let up any broken tackles. They need to make contact and they need to get guys down to the ground. Another thing that he hinted at was the production in both fronts. Especially with the success that Reeltown has had rushing the ball, their offensive line play is just as good as anybody else's in the entire state. So Dadeville is going to really have to lean on their interior, on their front, and especially their linebackers to hold the rushing game intact. But passing the ball wise, the secondary also has a challenge. Another thing that has ultimately led to the success that Reeltown has had up until this point is how stellar their defense has been playing. Week 1, they led up 28 points to TR Miller, but you see the 28-7 loss on their record, and I feel you can look at that and see and make up your own assumptions about it. But as somebody who's actually at the game, Reeltown's defense played good. You take away 2 big plays, the game's a lot closer than it turned out to be. I mean, and Coach Johnson already talked about it at the beginning of the season. They had some uncostly turnovers in that game as well. And since then, turnovers have been at a minimum. I mean, I think Jamarcus threw one other interception, and that was in week 2. Since then, he has not thrown an interception. I can't think of any of the fumbles that I saw on the stat sheet. So they've really eliminated that turnover battle. But whenever we look at, what Dadeville has going on right now, offensively, they're still trying to figure out some sort of juice and some sort of they're still trying to figure out exactly what their identity is on offense. They're currently running a 2-quarterback set. They either have Cam Hurd or Davis McKelvey that are going to be lining up at quarterback. The thing about Davis McKelvey is he's going to be like your more traditional quarterback that they are going to look to pass the ball pretty frequently. Cam Hurd, they gave him a bunch of passes, but he is also a really good rusher. But the thing that I look at as far as, stat totals wise, passing the ball through 4 games, they only have 373 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. They're only averaging 80 yards rushing a game. And Reeltown's defense is not, it's just going to be a lot for them to handle, and that's something that I'm really interested to see on how they combat that. Whoever it is at quarterback, whoever it is in the backfield, Cam Hurd and Brandes Eason have been getting most of the rushing totals. I'm just really interested to see what they can do offensively, and I know that Reeltown is just not going to make it easy for them in the slightest. I look at somebody in Jay Burns to be a real X factor for the Dadeville Tigers going into this week's game. He's their leading receiver. He's an amazing athlete. He's one of their top performers on defense. I think leaning on the performance of a guy like that is going to be very beneficial for what Dadeville tries to do in tonight's game. But the other thing that we need to talk about as far as this game goes is this is a long-standing rivalry. I mean, I know that I'm still new to the area, but from what I've seen, just looking through all the statistics is, these teams from, 1972 to 2021 played each other every single year. They took a 3-year gap, but now they reunite. The teams are only separated by, I believe, a little over 20 minutes or a little under 20 minutes. This is like a little crosstown rivalry. I imagine that Dadeville is going to bring its A game. I believe Reeltown is going to bring its A game, just because it, in a sense, is a rivalry game. It may not be, the rivals that they have on paper, or at least that I don't know of. But I think with the added benefit of these teams being so close together, I think with the added history of these teams over the course of the years, I think this is going to be an exciting game to watch. And Dadeville's coming off a bye. Dadeville's coming off a bye week. They've been able to rest their players. They've been able to figure out what's not working and fix that. So I'm really interested to see ultimately what the outcome is. But it's very hard to not go for the Reeltown Rebels in this game, just purely based off of what they've been able to put up on paper, how well their defense is playing, and how dominant their offense has been. But we're going to go and do a little commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the game that I'm currently at, the Benjamin Russell Charles Henderson game. It's homecoming. You got about 50 minutes, a little over 50 minutes to get out here if this is the game that you're planning on going to. I feel like the clouds behind me are a little bit concerning, but I mean, I checked the radar before I hopped on here. I, checked it out before I even came out to the game. So I didn't see any rain that was most likely to come. I think the biggest factor is going to be the wind. But if you are coming bring an umbrella, bring a rain jacket, bring something just in case, but it doesn't look like it. But I'm going to be right back to talk about the Benjamin Russell-Charles Henderson game right after these breaks. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, my name is Andrew McGreer. I'm the owner of Dunning Roofing. We serve an area from Birmingham to Montgomery to Auburn to Opelika and all the surrounding Lake Martin area. Well, we've been in business for 25 years almost, and we've been growing every year since then. Recently, we won an award by GAF, who's the largest manufacturer of shingles in the world, and we've achieved a Master Elite status. That Master Elite status is critical, not only for us as a company. Only 2% of roofers worldwide ever achieve this designation. We got it because we're exceptional. We look forward to helping you.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is me? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes. Look at that. You didn't turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you got to get it trending.
No, you're doing it wrong.
Let's go.
Can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Welcome back to this episode of Inside the Lines. I just realized in my intro before I started talking, I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Samuel Higgs. I am the sports editor for the Alexander City Outlook and Dadeville Record. I'm going to be by myself today talking about some not college football, that's for tomorrow. We're talking about high school football, and now it's time to get into the game that I'm actually here in attendance at, Benjamin Russell versus Charles Henderson. Currently, Benjamin Russell is 2-3 on the year, while Charles Henderson is 3-2. Benjamin Russell is coming off a really tough loss to Spain Park, but Spain Park is an extremely loaded team. They have D1 player after D1 player after D1 player, and I mean, it was a tough task for Benjamin Russell to go on the road and face them in their own territory, but I'm still super confident in this Benjamin Russell team. They started the season off 0-2. They paired up back-to-back wins and then fell again. But I'm pretty confident in this game against Charles Henderson just because I don't think Charles Henderson really has done anything on paper to kind of say that they are a pretty confident or a pretty valid team to be. I get that they're 3-2, but I mean, if we look at it real quick, they've had 109 points scored against them this year, and they've only scored 59. So, I mean, offensively, they're not the greatest team. The most points they put up in a single game has been 29, but that was against a pretty lackluster Carroll team. But they started the season off with a 6-0 win. Then they went and lost 24-0 to Highland Home. Then they won 18-14 to Greenville, and then got absolutely smoked by Montgomery Catholic 63-6, which obviously skews the 109 points that they've led up this year. But I just look at this Benjamin Russell team, and I I just don't feel worried about this, to be honest. I mean, Elijah Johnson is 61 of 19 for 914 passing yards. He has 13 passing touchdowns to 2 interceptions. And he has that athletic ability where he's added 94 rushing yards and a touchdown. But I think the biggest thing about his athleticism is it allows him to extend plays. I mean, when you have a guy like Zadarian Morgan who's leading this team with 557 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns, I mean, having that ability to extend plays, get the ball to your playmaker is extremely valuable, and that's something that they need. I don't know necessarily how good Charles Henderson is as far as pass rushing goes, but I mean, I imagine that Elijah Johnson is going to add to his already impressive totals. But the thing that does worry me oh so very slightly has been the weather. I don't think it's going to be like this drastic thing that is going to cause too much of a problem. But I look for them to really establish TJ Wilson pretty early. I imagine it's going to be the TJ Wilson show at the beginning. I mean, that's something that they've said pretty consistently over the course of the season, where they want to get their lead back. You know, they want to get him a bulk of carries. And I mean, he's been successful with the carries that he does have. He's averaging 90 yards a game. He has 451 yards on the season. He has 5 touchdowns. He's averaging 5.4 yards per carry. I mean, don't try to fix what's not broken. TJ Wilson has been a standout back for them for multiple years, and he's going to continue to be. But I think BR is going to come with some extra juice tonight, just purely based off of the fact that it is homecoming. And I will say, I'm very impressed at BR's homecoming. I'm off of Church Street, and I had to get to my house right before, everything went down at 2 o'clock. And let me just say, it was deep. People were lined up on the streets. People were cheering. People were excited. So I imagine the energy in the stadium is going to be amazing. I imagine the energy from the players is also going to be amazing. It's just going to be a really fun homecoming environment. And I think Benjamin Russell, coming off of the loss that they had last week, is going to bring that extra juice to the table. They want to win. I mean, Coach Smitty Grider told me even before the Spain Park matchup, like, they're the reigning region champs. They're not going to just let some team knock them off so easily. And I think getting a win here tonight, getting a win at home, getting a win on homecoming is just going to bring a lot of confidence, a lot of juice, a lot of momentum to this team that they need. But defensively for Benjamin Russell, I look for Bradley Pulliam, who leads the team in sacks, and Caleb Spivey to be absolutely dominant off the edge like they have been all season. And the other thing that I'm looking for from them defensively is seeing the adjustments that they can make in the secondary. One of the things that I've noticed from some of the games that I've attended, and especially looking at some of the Spain Park stuff, is, the secondary has been susceptible to letting up some big plays. So I'm really interested to see how the secondary plays today. I want to see if they find a way to limit those big plays in the passing game. And I'm really excited to see, just as far as who's going to be lining up in the secondary. I saw Lorenzo Carter just sitting in his jersey. I didn't see him fully dressed out. So I'm definitely interested to see, exactly what the secondary is going to be looking like tonight. But again, I'm excited. I imagine the people in the stands are excited. I imagine the players are excited. It's going to be a fun homecoming. If you guys are planning to come out to this Benjamin Russell game, you got a little bit over 40 minutes to get out here. But other than that, we're going to go to another round of commercials. Again, I want to thank Dunning Roofing for being a sponsor of Inside the Lines. If you guys experienced any damage from the hurricane that just came through, or even the microburst that happened a couple weeks ago, make sure you get in contact with Dunning Roofing and they can help you with your roofing needs. But other than that, I'll be right back from this commercial break. All right, bye.
Hi, my name is Andrew McGreer. I'm the owner of Dunning Roofing. We serve an area from Birmingham to Montgomery to Auburn to Opelika and all the surrounding Lake Martin area. Well, we've been in business for 25 years almost, and we've been growing every year since then. Recently, we won an award by GAF, who's the largest manufacturer of shingles in the world, and we've achieved a Master Elite status. That Master Elite status is critical, not only for us as a company. Only 2% of roofers worldwide ever achieve this designation. We got it because we're exceptional. We look forward to helping you.
day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is me? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes. Look at that. You even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you got to get it trending.
No, you're doing it wrong.
Let's go.
Can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Lines for week 6 of high school football. You know, I spent a majority of the time talking about the Dadeville Reeltown game, talking about the Benjamin Russell Charles Henderson game, but we still got quite a few other games that are on the list for tonight. One of the games that I want to talk about is Eufaula at Wetumpka. I believe they switched as far as, you know, home and away. I think it was originally supposed to be scheduled at Eufaula, but Wetumpka gets another home game, and they're coming off such a big homecoming win. And I think another thing that we really need to talk about as far as Wetumpka goes has been the play that offensively they have gotten from Jimmy King. Jimmy King has put up back-to-back weeks of 200 rushing yards, and that has brought almost a new identity to the Wetumpka offense. So I'm really interested to see on exactly how they continue to push that through the rest of the season. I mean, whenever I talked to Coach Bear Woods, he said, like, originally, you know, he wasn't getting the amount of touches that he should, or he wasn't initially getting the amount of touches that he's getting now early in the season, but they've since then began to rely on him as far as offensive production goes. So I'm really excited to see if they continue that offensive success, and I think the added benefit of the weather switching the game to Wetumpka is also going to bring a little bit more juice. I know they probably had to flip some things around to make sure that they could prepare for the home game, but I was out with Wetumpka last week, and I mean, people were showing up for homecoming, so I imagine they do the same thing this week. Another game that I am really interested to see, especially for a team coming off their bye week, is Stanhope Elmore at Smith Station. So if you are unfamiliar with Stanhope Elmore, there's just one name that I want to make sure that everybody knows, and that is Arthur McQueen. That dude is an absolute monster. He, on the season already, they're 4 games into the season. They're 2-2 on the season, but through 4 games, Arthur McQueen has rushed for 841 rushing yards, averaging 210 a game. He is a dog when it comes to running the ball, and I think the same can be said for the Stanhope Elmore offense in general. They are able to run the ball at such a high level. On the season, they have 1,300 rushing yards. They have 1,323 rushing yards on the season. And it is just, I mean, it's mostly to do with Arthur McQueen, but Zach Holcomb is also another guy that's, you know, at quarterback is able to run the ball. And then Jamari Coleman is, you know, a wide receiver, but they also look to give him some carries. So especially coming off of a bye week, you know, these guys are going to be fresh. These guys are going to be well rested. These guys are going to have plenty of time to prepare for a Smith Station team that is honestly struggling. Smith Station is 0-5 on the year. I don't remember exactly what they've been outscored by, but I can look it up real quick. Smith Station has allowed 39.6 points a game this year, and I imagine Stanhope is probably going to put just that much, if not more, on the scoreboard. What other games do we got? We got Horseshoe Bend that is also coming off of a bye, and they're traveling to White Plains. I mean, one of the things that I talked to with Coach Phillips, a couple of weeks ago, is he mentioned the injuries that have been piling up on his team, as far as early in the season. So, I mean, having that bye week to be able to rest all their players and make sure that a guy like Braxton Wilson, who faced an injury earlier in the season, making sure that he's good, making sure he's 100% is going to be extremely valuable for their team going on. And, I mean, White Plains is another struggling team. They're 1-3 on the season. I think as far as Horseshoe Bend goes, they really need to get a win on the road. I think that's going to be a huge thing as far as momentum, as far as like just coming off of that bye week. Another game that, I mean, it hurts me to root against Central Coosa, because I think I love talking to Daniel Flowers. I think so many of their kids are extremely talented, but they're 0-5 on the season, and they're traveling to another road game against Sacs. They did something different against Ranburne, where they decided to switch from Javon Patterson, who was typically lined up at quarterback, to an 8th grader in Waylon Chapman Allen. And in his first start at the varsity level as an 8th grader, Waylon Chapman went out there and threw 3 touchdowns. That is pretty good. And I mean, offensively, even though they did lose to Ranburne, I believe it was 50-32. 32 is the most points they put up all season, and they had an 8th grader at quarterback. And that doesn't mean that Javon Patterson is out of the offense altogether. He's using his athletic ability that was helping him at the quarterback position, and he's adding it into the rushing game. He's adding it into the receiving game. Antonio Grant last week was another guy that made an impact in the receiving and rushing game as well. I think the big thing that you need to look for as far as Coosa goes is if they can sustain that success on offense and their defense can just make a couple stops, it wouldn't be all that surprising if Coosa was able to come away a win over Sacs. Sacs is 1-4 on the year. I can't remember exactly who they beat, but I mean, Coosa and Sacs both share a loss to Horseshoe Bend, but I'm really interested to see what Central Coosa is able to do offensively in week 2 under Waylon Chapman at quarterback position. Another game, another homecoming game even, is Macon East at Southern Prep. Southern Prep has struggled this year. They have a freshman at quarterback in Braden Pace, and it's very hard to replicate the success that they had last year with a guy like Kevin Mason at the quarterback position, and trying to do that with a freshman is not an easy thing to do. When talking to Coach Roland Bell, they're trying different things out at quarterback just to see what can provide them with the most success. But I imagine it's still going to be a 2 quarterback system, and it's going to be a tough one against Macon East. Macon East is 3-0 on the year, and they're traveling to a Southern Prep team that is 1-4. That's just going to be another tough one. And then another tough one that we got on the schedule. I'm saying tough a lot. But another interesting matchup is going to be Maplesville at Hopeville. Hopeville's coming off their bye week, so I mean, they've had plenty of time to adjust and see exactly what it is that they need to fix as far as it comes to for the rest of the season. But Maplesville's not going to make it easy. Maplesville is 4-0 on the year. They're a good team. But other than that, I think we got Edgewood at Lowndes. Again, another one. Lowndes is undefeated on the year. Edgewood lost last week, so hopefully they were able to, combat that loss last week and see what they could do against a very tough Lowndes Academy team. But other than that, I think we've hit pretty much every single game. I already hit Elmore County and Tallahassee. I think really what it comes down to is just making sure that if you guys are going to be coming to the Benjamin Russell Charles Henderson game, you got a little bit over 30 minutes to get out here. I think I said it earlier. I think the clouds make it look a lot worse than it actually is. It's honestly pretty dry out here, other than a couple like mud puddles, located around the field. But I think as far as a score prediction goes with this Benjamin Russell Charles Henderson game, I think BR is going to come out swinging. I think BR is going to put their foot on the pedal, and they're just going to come out swinging. I think it's going to be very difficult for Charles Henderson to get on the scoreboard, especially if the secondary is able to eliminate some big plays. So if I had to go with the score prediction, I'd lean more towards, I'd say 38 to let's go with a safe 10, because it's very hard to keep a team out of the end zone. You know, things happen, but I think 38-10 is extremely reasonable as far as this matchup goes. But other than that, I'm Samuel Higgs. I'm sports editor for the Alexander City Outlook and the Dadeville Record, and I appreciate Dunning Roofing and every other sponsor that we've had for this show. Other than that, make sure you guys head out to all the Friday night matchups, and thanks for joining me. All right, I'll catch you guys next week. Bye.